when it comes to the kids, I struggle a lot with how being authoritative and not being enough of a friend or like a friend. Like that's really my struggle is like, I feel like it's a lot more natural for me to be authoritative with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's wrong, but I'm just saying that it's really natural for me to be authoritative with them. So I don't know. What's your thought about like dads being quote unquote friends with their kids?
I am humble enough to admit that I don't really know what that balance looks like. I mean,
hey, my friends, welcome to the Proud Papi podcast. I'm so glad you joined us this week. Me and Eli have a conversation about relationship with our kids, and we asked the question, should dad be a friend? Check it out. We went to Santa Cruz.
Yeah, how was that?
It was great. The weather, there was rain, but it came in patches, so it wasn't raining the whole entire time.
Okay.
Which was nice.
Yeah.
We didn't have to deal, we were able to walk around and enjoy the scenery, eat some delicious food. And I think just the time together, we realized like this was the first time since probably before Mateo that we were able to like kind of get away, do an overnight thing without the kids.
Yeah.
So that's like a good 6-7 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about not ministry related, not work related, like us two going, having a good time, not doing anything, vacation basically.
Right.
And we were on our way back home and we're just like, both like,
we needed that.
Yeah, this was awesome. Like it was. We're like, we should really try and do this. It doesn't have to be as grand or as big. But like we should try and do this every year because it was a nice like reset for us. We really got to just talk and like Ruthie was saying, like it just felt like we were, boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, dating again.
Yeah, so it was really nice. So enjoyed our time and then isn't it funny how when you get away from the kids, you're like, yeah, we're gonna spend this time talking, being together, enjoying it, and then a majority of what you're talking about is the kids.
Oh, I mean,
when you're not with the kids,
they're such a big part of your life.
I know, but then it's like, wait, no, we're not like trying to, like solve our parenting issues. We're just trying to be together, but yeah, we're still talking about the kids. Isn't it cute? Like, I swear, every little girl that we saw was like, she looks like Dalia. Her hair is like the way Dalia has her hair. Look at that face.
Smells like Dalia.
Yeah. Like, oh my God. Like everything like just reminded us of our daughter and of the kids, obviously. But so that was nice because when we got home, it was like a fonder like appreciation of the kids,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come here, kids. I love you.
Here.
20 minutes later, all right, get away from me. That's it. We're home. We're back to the real world. But
as soon as they start fighting, they're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. Start yelling, dang it, kids. We need another vacation, Ruthie. But dude, now with the weather getting better, baseball's coming back.
That means literally nothing to me.
I know it doesn't.
It means
I know it
nothing
doesn't
anymore.
But I don't mean like Major League Baseball. I mean Little League Baseball.
Even less.
I know. But
I had such a bad experience, man.
Was it bad?
It was.
What was bad about it?
Looking back, I didn't want to play. That was so bad. I didn't want to play. I would constantly find excuses not to play.
I feel like you had a season where you were like, I'm going to try this. And you weren't bad.
That's very good. That's very kind of you.
What I mean to say is like you had skill. Like when you wanted to, sure, there were like, I remember the coach asking, going, who, because in Little League, everyone has to play.
Right.
So if you have more than the 9 kids, somebody's got to sit on the bench so that somebody else can.
I would volunteer.
You'd be the one to say, I'll sit.
sit.
But I also remember like me playing the infield, you playing first base, me throwing to you, and you like digging balls out of the ground.
Yeah.
Like I remember that.
I could play first.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying though. I remember like glimpses of you like you could play. It's not that you couldn't play. You just didn't want to play.
But what's funny is that I preferred playing defense than offense, which in a game of baseball is like not a good sign that you like baseball because everybody wants to like hit, and I was just like not into it. Like
what was it about hitting that you didn't?
I wasn't good at it. I was very fast.
Well, Yeah.
I could run out a single and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, and I could still, if I was on base, you remember, if I was on base,
you
I
could
was
run.
a threat.
Yeah.
But getting on base was the problem. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was obviously
Much better
at like hitting and in the game. But I mean, when I got older, and my dad would kind of make fun of me, like he would say I would be scared, but part of me was like, yeah, I was nervous. I was nervous of like striking out. I was scared of, what, like not necessarily getting hit, but like being an out, like not producing.
Right.
So I remember feeling that, especially in high school, I would get kind of tense at the plate because I'd feel like, man, like if I don't get this hit or if I strike out, man, I'm going to feel really bad, But defense, I loved. Yeah. I like thrived. I'm like, I want this. I'll do this. And it showed in my game. Like I was a way better defender. I played catcher, so I was way better at that part of the game than hitting. But
you weren't bad at hitting. I mean, you were pretty good at making contact.
Yeah.
And like getting the ball in play.
Yeah.
So,
but for me, what made the game fun was the defense aspect.
Yeah.
Especially catcher.
Right.
That's what made it fun for me.
I mean, you're in every play. So
you're in every play. You have to think about the pitch. When there's men on base, I was like, I dare you to run on me. Because I do the Benito Santiago
on the knees,
throw from the knees all the time. Even if it didn't need to, like I'd still do it. Just because. But I'm excited because this is going to be my second year of coaching Mateo's team. Last year was T-ball. This year is coach pitch and probably some machine pitch later in the year. But
okay.
So it's a lot of like 6 to 8 year olds, and I'm really excited. So last year I didn't want to coach, but the league needed coaches, and I wanted my son to play with his friends. So I told the league like, hey, I'll coach one of the teams if you put those 3 boys with my son, and they're like, yeah, and it was great. And at the end of the year I was like, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Like it was really fun to just be out there. I love the game, obviously. I want my son to learn the game, and he really was invested and engaged. So I'm like, I love this. But then also the community aspect of like other dads out there, little kids, like just playing ball, like it was really fun. So I told my wife and I told Mateo, like, I had a great time and I'm going to coach you again next year. So here we are. Now that can totally change this year.
Yeah, that's true.
If I have a bad experience, maybe I may not be as motivated to coach next year. But I'm like, I still want to, you know what I mean? Like, especially if it gives Mateo like an extra piece of motivation to want to play.
Yeah.
If he's like, oh yeah, I want to play because my dad's coaching me, and then we're having conversations about parts of the game. And it reminds me of relationship with dad, right? Because that's like growing up, like that's kind of, other than like God and our relationship with Jesus and church, a majority of our conversation was about baseball.
Yeah.
And I think that me and my dad really like just clicked in that aspect, that we were able to talk about baseball, anything about baseball, just back and forth. We'd criticize or praise a manager when he make a decision. And when we disagreed, we would share why that's a bad move, or, like we just break down the game as we were watching it. So Mateo's like love that he has for the game reminds me of like my relationship with my dad. And I'm like, yeah, like I like that, because I really enjoy, and I still do enjoy talking about the game with my dad, because I know it's a game that he loves, and it's a game that he kind of introduced us to, whether that was on purpose or not. I mean,
I'm pretty sure it was on purpose.
Well, I'm trying to remember, like,
because we were not
where the idea of even getting into baseball.
I mean, there was no soccer in our household.
Yeah, that's true. No football either.
But
like,
definitely no football.
But I don't know. I don't remember. And mom, dad, you guys can correct me, but I don't remember going to my parents and going, I want to play baseball. I feel like
Lord knows I didn't. I didn't
like,
start that conversation.
Eli, you're playing.
Yeah, that was very much it.
I mean, I remember like maybe being presented with the idea.
Yeah.
And I don't ever remember being like, I want to play baseball.
It was pretty popular in Roner Park though. Like that was kind of the elementary school thing to do.
Well, I guess we started showing interest by playing in the backyard when we were living off of Stony Point.
Yeah.
Because you would throw and
true.
We would take turns hitting. And so maybe that's where it started. Maybe my parents thought like,
oh, that would be good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we went to Run Park, new place, need to make friends, get involved. Hey, baseball, I don't know.
Gosh, I hope not.
And they're probably like, Eli's not very good, but we should just get him involved anyway.
To be honest and to be fair, reflecting back on it, a lot of what I wanted to do for baseball came from following your example too. Oh, Ben's playing baseball. Oh, I should play baseball. It wasn't so much my dad forcing me to go play baseball, but like baseball was a big thing between you two, and so I kind of just wanted to follow that. But I realized very quickly, this is not my thing.
This is definitely not.
Well, not very quickly. I probably we started in like 3rd, 4th grade.
Yeah, how many seasons did you play? Like 3 or 4?
I played in through middle school. Yeah.
Okay, so you played like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And we played fall ball a couple times too. So we had like 2 seasons in one.
I think it was all when you were doing the travel ball and like Dixon and stuff that I was like, I definitely don't want to do this.
I love that. That was so much fun.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Sweating in catcher's gear in like 90-degree weather was amazing. But
no offense, Dixon.
We love you, Dixon.
We love you, Dixon. Dixon, California.
Dixon, California. But yeah, dude, I mean, again, now with Abel, he's not like Abel likes the idea of playing. Abel tried baseball. Actually, the same level that Mattheo's at right now is the level that Abel got introduced in. So just one level up of T-ball. And Abel tried it, and it seemed like he had a good time. And then when I asked him, like, do you want to play again? He was like, no. And I was like, okay. I'm like, it's fair. Like, our rule is like, same thing with soccer. We're gonna try this. We're gonna stick it out the whole year. We're not gonna give up. We're not gonna quit. It doesn't matter if we like it, love it, hate it. We're not gonna quit. We're gonna play through the whole entire season. And at the end of the season, I'll ask you, and then you can tell me if you don't like it. Then no problem. We'll move on to something else. We'll try something else. No worries. So he didn't like baseball. We did soccer. There were parts of soccer he didn't like. I didn't think he thought there'd be as much running. But when it came to the games, it looked like he was having a blast.
Yeah.
Which that's typically how it works. Practice. Yeah. I mean, baseball practices aren't fun.
Nobody likes practice.
No.
So we're talking about practice right now?
Practice?
Practice?
We're really talking about practice right now? So, I mean, but it's a game, right? Yeah. So, which we had a blast. It was our first year of organized soccer. It was so much fun. So I asked him at the end of the year, do you want to play soccer again? He said, no. I'm like, okay, well, we'll think about what to do next. Yeah. Right. And then it was like 3 weeks ago and I'm like, Ruthie's like, he wants to play soccer again. And I'm like, he does? Yeah. I was like, Abel, do you want to play soccer again? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. Well, when we get closer to signing up, I'm going to ask you, because give
it a couple of weeks to breathe.
Yeah. Again, if you say yes, we're going to stick it out through the whole season, And sometimes Ruthie pushes back and she's like, it's just that you want him to like be like super. And I'm like, no, that's not what it is. Like, I want him to have fun. I want him to enjoy it. But that also means like there's a commitment to it too.
Yeah.
That if you're signing up to play sports, we're not doing this casually. You're going to go to practice. Yeah. And then part of the issue is that he wasn't participating in all the drills like the rest because he didn't want to. And I'm like, no. This is part of it. Yeah. You want to play soccer?
These are the things you want from organized sports.
Yeah. Your commitment.
Right.
Like if this is what you want to do, that's fine. You're going to have tons of fun, but it also comes with pieces of like, hey, this is not as fun as the game. Like, you're right. It's not, but it's part of participating. And if we're going to participate, we're committing to the whole process, not to just part of it, not to just whatever you like.
Yeah.
That's not the way this works. Not only because mom and dad are paying a lot of money, but also because of time. Like soccer is 2 practices a week plus a game on Saturday. That's a lot of time for us. Like we can't just be lollygagging over here. We got to try our best, So that's kind of my stance on sports with the kids is like everything. We're doing everything, And so, and at the end of the year, if you're like, I hated it, never want to see it again. No, I don't. That's fine. If my dad told me at the end of the year, I don't want to play baseball ever again. Cool. What else do we want to do? What do we want to try? I'll give you that. Although football's off the table. I think me and Ruthie are like, nope.
Yeah. It is interesting, isn't it?
And my parents did the same thing with us,
right.
Or at least with me, because I had an interest in playing football in high school because all my buddies were So I was like, oh, I could do this. I could play football. Like, I may not be the fastest guy or the biggest guy at that time or the strongest guy. I mean, I'm still not the biggest guy, but I didn't have
But
the
you are
extra weight.
the strongest guy. So
I was definitely the strongest guy. I mean, why would you not want me on the football team? But my parents said no because they didn't want me to get hurt. And looking back, I'm like,
good call. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, mom and dad. That's a good one. So same thing with the kids. We don't want them to get hurt. It's a entertaining sport to watch, but it's a very, very dangerous game. As much as they do to change it, and I understand that whole part of like, oh, they're ruining whatever, but it's just my kids. Nah, you're good. Yeah. They're probably not going to have the size of play, honestly, either. So, so speaking about like our relationship with kids, and I guess sports is part of that, but also like this idea of, because I've heard, like, we had Eric on,
yeah,
and he said that his dad was his best friend.
Yeah, which
again, I loved hearing that, and I'm like, I want my kids to say that, right? Because like I want my kids to like look back at our relationship and go, my dad was like one of my bestest friends. He was like the best. I could talk to him about anything, and that whole thing. But I guess the question is how as dads do we handle that? Like how do we how can we earn their trust in the same way that friends trust each other, but it's still at the end of the day, like I'm still dad.
Yeah,
I'm still in charge, and there's going to be things that I decide for you. There's going to be things I tell you to do, I ask you to do that you're not going to like. And it's going to make you feel a way about our relationship. Because I've heard it, one way where it's like, oh, dads are not friends. Parents should not be friends. You're the parent, not the friend. Which there's aspects of that I'm like, I agree, right? But then it's like, well, with our relationship with our kids, like I don't want to just be all authority and be like this presence that just hovers over them, and every time I'm over them, they're like, oh my gosh, dad's here and he's looking, or he wants to talk, or whatever. So I don't know, but what's your thought about like dads being quote unquote friends with their kids?
I am humble enough to admit that I don't really know what that balance looks like. I mean, right now, my son, he's going to be 5 in June.
Yeah.
And so right now, it's fun time right now.
Yeah.
Like he loves to hang out with me, and he loves to, read books with us and go and running and playing and stuff like that. And anytime that I've had to have like a disciplinary talk or that kind of thing with him, I try to come as calmly as I can and try to explain myself the best way I can about why we shouldn't do that, and then explain more so the fact of like why that's important for him to know, kind of thing. But I haven't had to take a stance where it's like, like I needed to be super authoritative, in that sense. And so, I mean, part of that I'm counting as a blessing because James is just such a great kid. That we just haven't gotten to that level. And in times where we had to have more serious disciplinary, it was more just because he was younger and just trying to understand the limits of boundaries and what they were and what that meant for me as a parent. But I mean, I'm going to defer to you. I mean, you obviously, you got 3 kids now and all of them very different. And so, but I as a generalistic term, I would agree with that I think that there needs to be a fine balance of I can't just be the authoritative parent, but at the same time too, I just can't be the buddy. I don't, because I feel like if you're the buddy, then you're too worried about being the buzzkill. Like you don't want to be like that dad. Yeah, which I can understand some of that. Yeah, like of trying to avoid some of that, but at the same time too, if I'm just always on top, and I just feel as though I'm missing more so. Me missing a side of him, but him missing a side of who I am as well. Yeah. Because I think, and now as I'm older, I have much more grace from my dad, realizing what it was to be a dad, to kids like us. Right. Kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think you know,
I think is a great place to start because
Yeah.
it's a reminder, right? Like we're still figuring this stuff out.
I mean, for
man.
sure. And then, I mean, to give context, we're talking as two parents that have kids that are under the age of 10.
Right.
My oldest is 9. He'll be 10 in October. So I feel like this relationship dynamic of not wanting to be the quote unquote buzzkill or the bummer is really going to take an effect when they become teenagers.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be that point where I don't want to, they're not going to say this outright, hopefully. I don't want to spend time with you. I got my friends. I got my things. I got my clique. I got my group of friends I want to spend time with. I don't want to be home. I don't want to go to church. I got my friends to hang out with. I don't want to hang out with church friends. I got my other friends, So I think that's to give context. So we don't know what that's like yet.
Right.
I don't. I really don't. And how I'm going to handle that, I have no idea. I will say though, like our personalities really play a big part in how we do this because you are a very playful person. That is your personality, right? You're warm, you're playful, you love to joke around, you love to have a good time. And not to say that I hate having a good time or anything.
But you do.
But I do. But I mean, I'm a little bit more like I don't know what the word is, man. I'm not as playful. I think there's parts of me that wants to be playful, and then I'm like, maybe I'm just not as playful. I don't know. And what I mean by that is I'm a little bit more serious.
Yeah. You're a Kawhi Leonard?
I'm a Kawhi Leonard, yeah. Yeah, what's his laugh?
Yeah, he's like, I'm a fun guy. You just got to ask me a question about it. I just can't think of something fun about me just off the top of my head. I'm like, what? Who is this guy?
Dude, Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, so I guess I'd be Kawhi Leonard. But you know what I mean? It's for me, I'm a little bit more of I don't think I know the word. If you know the Enneagram.
I don't, but go ahead.
Okay, but
you can explain it.
Yeah, I'm an 8. So there's like these 9 different like personality quirks or types. And again, this is not all like black and white, like you have to be this and that's it. There is like different side things to this, but like an 8 is a little bit more like authoritative, a little bit more of a like take the lead and kind of deal with some of the harder things up front. I'm also, I can be a bit of a grump and a grouch. I think when it comes to the kids, I struggle a lot with how being authoritative and not being enough of a friend or like a friend. Like that's really my struggle is like, I feel like it's a lot more natural for me to be authoritative with them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's wrong, but I'm just saying that it's really natural for me to be authoritative with them. So,
I mean, I know just from all of the like work, like just like, just all the like personal work that I've done in like my own life. I think it's a healthy thing to admit your tendencies. It's not a bad thing, but it's a healthy thing to admit them.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the first step to making kind of understanding the change, right?
Yeah.
So, for those kind of situations, it's especially if it's behavior or if it's a personality quirk that you kind of want to lean away from, it's that better understanding of like, okay, these are the things that kind of trigger me to those. And so what are some ways to kind of pull me out? And so like what I found, and for those of you that don't know my testimony, I mean, it's funny, man. Like I still get people to come to me all the time. So I've gone through a pretty serious porn addiction for years and made it a part of my ministry and life to kind of share that and be a safe space to kind of talk about that. But what we find is like, especially with human behaviors and stuff that we want to stop is it's very like ritualistic. Mm-hmm. Right. It's very much, it never just like for people that get angry, it's just never like they may see it this way, but they're like, it's not like they're chill one second and then they're angry another.
Yeah.
There's always kind of a step that kind of goes in that direction. And like the first thing to acknowledge is like, okay, what are some of the things that kind of get me to there, to like my angry point, or gets me to like wherever it is the behavior that I want to stop. And then acknowledging like, okay, so then at what point is a smooth place to kind of make a break? Like, okay, if I make it point 1, 2, and 3, okay, what do I need to do to stop at point 1? What do I need to stop at point 2? What do I need to stop at point 3? So I know this is digging deeper into the psychology of it, but
I mean, it's interesting because like today at work, I work with my brother-in-law and our brother-in-law, not just mine, but yours too, Eli.
It's true.
But I had told him somebody had a bad attitude at work, and I text him because I usually text him just to kind of vent, but I'm like, I don't know why, but bad attitudes trigger the heck out of me.
Yeah.
When somebody has a bad attitude, I get triggered. So I get so defensive. And I guess it probably wouldn't be defensive, maybe offensive, maybe defensive. I don't know. But it just triggers me. Like I get like unsettled when somebody has a bad attitude. It doesn't even have to be towards me, just in general. To the situation.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, is that really necessary? You know, like these are the things I think about in my head. Like, is that necessary? Like, this is a difficult situation. Do we really need to be like this right now? Mind you, I have bad attitudes for sure as well. So this is not saying that I handle everything great. But,
Right.
But, you know, that you're bringing all that up where you're like, you know, what is the point? I share that, you know, Mateo's kind of usually the one that like really triggers me. And it's because he's the one that will tell him something, he'll say no. And that no is getting a lot louder, by the way, recently. It's just like, no. And I'm like, dude, I'm about to lose my mind right now if you don't do what I'm asking you to do.
Yeah.
And so, and for me, I guess the struggle in my mind is like, if I, you know, leave the authoritative side alone and say, okay, I'm no longer going to hold that authority over them. I'm going to try and earn their trust through like a friendship, building trust through kindness and things like that. Like when it comes to use my authority, it's going to have no power because I haven't used it, right? Like it's not going to have any effect. Like that's the struggle that's in my mind. So that for me, I'm always like, I got to be authoritative because they got to know who's boss. They got to know that I'm in charge. What dad says, it's got to happen, you know? With an understanding that it's not always going to be like that, but I think in my mind, I'm like, that's the side that it's a lot more natural for me. Again, could be wrong.
That's just like so interesting that it really is. It's like really fascinating because like for me, it's the opposite.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like you're a lot more playful. I see the way that you father James. And so I'm like, I know just by looking at you, what type of relationship you have with him compared to my relationship with my kids, you know, our playtime is like wrestling each other, you know,
very physical.
Yeah. You know, we're like messing around, wrestling with each other. They're jumping on me. Mateo's just, you know, and it's fun. And I know that Mateo enjoys that. Like, I know that he likes spending that type of time with me, you know, he's a very like physical, like he likes to be outside running, jumping, doing that type of thing. And Abel does too. But Mateo really likes like wrestling. I'll get home and then he's like kicking me and punching me like, let's go. And it's like, okay, dude, relax. Hang on a second. So, but I could see in your relationship with James, you know, that it is like the opposite. It's different.
Cause I mean, that's really like a place that I want to like come in because I mean, that is the fear of mine for sure is that like, he doesn't feel confident or comfortable to come talk about something that is, you know, uncomfortable for him or just something that he's not sure about. And so like for me, it's always kind of trying to be that balance that even when I'm speaking in a place of authority, that I'm not speaking at a place of anger, to really like separating the two, having seriousness like in the tone and having seriousness, you with kind of like my body language, but not escalating my place to like really try and drill it in.
Yeah.
Like, especially right now at his age, like he is very much not just necessarily understanding, but like connecting how those work and like the cause and effect of things. And so like for me, that's really what it is. It's not so much like powering down on the behavior,
Right.
but having him understand that that behavior causes actions that can hurt either himself or other people around him, or that is, offensive to himself or people around him. And so trying to connect it so much so it's not like, look, what you did like is not okay, not just because I said so, or like that's not okay because that was very loud, but understand like, okay, that's not okay because what if this would have happened?
Right.
And then what would happen? Oh, well, I might have hit somebody. Okay, do you think that would have felt good? No. I was like, okay, so do you think that's a kind thing? And so trying to make that connection, but yeah, man. I mean, that's I want to start from a place like that because I don't necessarily just want to like rub his nose in the behavior kind of thing, because I really want him to understand like, hey, this is why I'm asking for you not to do this, kind of thing, in hopes that like if he does get in that position, like he would know that there is no subject off limits or off topic.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. So like, with the kids, that's something that I've been thinking about. It's just like how my tone, and Ruthie tells me all the time, and I think a lot of times I feel that I think I try to justify it and just say like, this is just the way I talk. My tone is like just who I am, like that. And honestly, some of it is true.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I mean, there's in my communication with people, like within family, like sometimes I can be pretty strong, like I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, but sometimes I don't really care to package it so it feels good for you. Sometimes I'm just going to tell you what I think. And sometimes it comes out a little rough, and I think that is not a bad thing, not necessarily always a good thing either. I think it's just part of who I am. But when it comes to the kids, I think I need to be more intentional on what my tone is, because I feel like I try to be authoritative in my tone rather than just in my presence.
Yeah.
And I think that's where sometimes I mess up. I do want to be more of a friend. I do want the kids to feel that they could talk to me. I do want them to enjoy being around me, even when they're teenagers, even when they don't really want to be around me, they don't mind me, you know? And that's the thing about our dad. Like, I remember like, okay, dad, yes, dad. But I don't ever remember like not wanting to be around dad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I never hated him. We never hated him. We never hated him being around. But we never minded him. And I think that in the things that dad has shared on this podcast about not being conversational enough with us, and I feel like he gave us a lot of space to like figure it out too. He'd instruct us. He'd tell us, hey, remember who you are, pray about it, seek the Lord, or give you his thoughts about it sometimes. But he gave us a lot of room to try and figure it out. So when it came to us like figuring out that thing, there was almost like an appreciation towards that. Like, hey, I really appreciate you like giving me the space to figure this out, even if it was something that he didn't agree with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that kind of gave me a respect for dad of like, he's going to love me regardless of I'm doing something he agrees with or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what I want to have with my kids too. Like, they're going to know what I stand for, what I believe in. And if they're doing something that goes against that they at least know like dad still loves me. He doesn't hate me. He may be disappointed, but that's kind of about it,
Yeah.
So I think as far as like being a friend or being a parent, being a dad, I think you should have that type of relationship with your kids, because in the long run, it really, like Eric was sharing, like he could sit here and say, my dad is my best friend. It was he wasn't just my best friend, but he is my best friend. And that's the type of relationship I want to have when I'm older. I'm old and the kids are older, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, most definitely.
So,
I mean, yeah, a lot of that, again, a lot of that comes from kind of parenting style, but then just getting older, just in general, and just like understanding, you know, kind of your parents as like humans and that kind of thing. And I know I've joked around about this with a bunch of people. I might have said even here in the podcast stuff. My hope and dream is that when my son gets married, that we do a father-son dance, you know, at his wedding.
Yeah.
And that's just because like, that's just who I am. And I think that'd be really funny and be a lot of fun and be very unusual. But right now, I'm trying to treasure as much time as I can, like with my son, and even just getting back home today and just like popping in and how's it going, Jamesy, the daddy, you know, just kind of catching up for just a little bit. Is always kind of makes my heart happy. So.
And see, it's funny because like as much as like same thing when I get home, like the kids are happy to see me. They say daddy, they say papi, and Mateo's like the first one to come up and give me a hug, you know? And it's like, even though we bump heads and he's like very defiant sometimes, he's the first one to kind of show me that he loves me when he gets, you know? So it's like, okay, well then I know that, you know what I mean? Like I can be very authoritative, very, very direct with my tone and what I'm telling him to do, and that he's got to listen. But at the end of the day, I think as long as he knows that I'm just doing this because I love him. And even when I make mistakes, it's not to hurt him. It's because I love him and I'm just trying to protect him and guide him in a good path, right? Like as long as he knows that, then he'll know that, you know, I care about him and I love him. So I think dads should be friends. We can record this podcast again in like 10 years when my kids are teenagers and we can talk about how that's going. But but in the meantime, I think earning their trust through that friendship, like I don't think it's going to do any bad. I think it's only going to help. Yeah. And so I'm going to try and do that in my relationship with my kids. And also just watch my tone and stop being a jerk. So, well,
good for you, man.
Thanks.
It takes a lot to admit.
It only took 10 episodes of this podcast to fix me. We can end it now.
We can end it now.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Got a question for you. In your parenting, do you find yourself to be more on the authoritative side or too friendly? And explain the ways that have helped you balance between the two. Let me know in the comments. And if you like content just like this, we're talking about fatherhood, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We drop new episodes every week, and we'd love to see you a part of this community. Hope you guys have a great week. Until next time, peace out.